Tabitha, for joining me on a video interview for our series, Sustainability Square One. And would just love to ask you a few questions about your life in sustainability. So let's start from the origin story. Like, what brought you into this field?
I got to it in kind of a roundabout way. I was CEO of a small electronic payments company, and we did military housing payments. We moved the rent payments from military members to private developers who were going in and renovating and building green housing for military service members and their families. And so the clients that I was working with were large development companies, construction companies that were doing green buildings. And I thought, wow, if I could do something really interesting, I think I would love to do something more around energy reduction and clean energy development. And so I ended up going to work for one of my clients and working 4 years, and then a different one and working for 8 years. And both of them were based overseas where we had carbon taxes. And so we had to count our carbon, we had to count our energy and really measure what we were doing because it was part of their regulatory requirements. So having that occur, over an 18-year span, and now the United States with the SEC legislation, with California regulations, it's really starting to catch up with the rest of the developed world with tracking of carbon and carbon reduction and what that means for organizations here and their value chain. So I kind of came into it in an indirect way. I was very interested in it. And I believe having a financial background and leadership background really gave me an advantage in working with sustainability because of Americans still think climate change is a ruse. They, are kind of turned off by the whole notion of carbon and carbon reduction. And so being able to speak to leadership in a way that talks about value adding, flexibility, agility as an organization, that's what everybody's concerned about. So it's really important that sustainability leaders get back to the basics and think about how does this help your business move forward?
We see that a lot too. And so now that if you want to tell us a little about where you're at and who you report to, it might bring those threads together.
Yeah, where I am now, I'm Executive Sustainability Officer for Gilbane, which is a large 154-year-old company that is owned by the Gilbane family. And it was started many, many years ago in Providence, Rhode Island, and has grown into an $8 billion plus organization. And where we are, like many American companies, is we are at the beginning of a journey of starting to measure everything. In my last book, Powering Change, I talk about the AAA framework, and it's assess. You have to know what you're using. You can't improve anything if you're not measuring it. So assess, align, adapt. And so aligning is the next step where you get your culture transformation going. You make sure leadership understands the new regulations, what's happening, why we should do it, both for heart and mind. One doesn't work with some groups, the other doesn't work with other groups. And so assess, align, adapt. It's a journey. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And so you're constantly iterating, you're constantly adapting. And I know as a software provider, as a solution provider in this industry, it's the absolute Wild West right now in the United States. It's gone from maybe 1,000 offerings to over 4,000, I think they said at Climate Week. So it's just this Wild West mess. And so as an organization, you have to really be thinking about how am I assessing, aligning my team members and my colleagues, and then adapt as you go.
Yeah, I did not realize there were 4,000. That's sort of mind-numbingly big. But when you think about who you need to explain your data, your software to, who is that person in your company right now? That's the first party of your explanation. And then I'm going to come back to the team nature.
Yeah, explaining the software and the tracking component, it's really a broad mix of people that are stakeholders in the organization. Of course, you have the CTO, the CIO, the folks that are running the technology group, because whatever you do needs to be cleared through them. It needs to be secure, and it needs to have their wisdom involved. But you also need to be working with your CFO. You need to be working with your accounting teams because we need to track, we need to have ways of flagging these invoices in our system. So you need to be working with your legal team because they need to know what regulations are coming down the pipeline. So it's really a cross-functional piece. And then you need to work with your COO and your operations because, of course, they have to execute this on your job sites. Now, I'm working in the construction industry right now. And so that, unique to us, we don't have like a standard building where you can just stick a meter on it and it's going to be there for 20 years. We have a very moving and fluid process where we might build for 2 years and then the next project we might be building for 5 years. And so there's a lot of complexity added in the construction and development sector.
Yes, we often see that the data management system is only as good as its change cycles. And construction, I guess, would be the litmus test of constantly changing in,
Yeah.
out a data set and so on. So, what do you think would be a big win for you and your position over the next 18 months? And then what is the bigger win over the next 5 years?
Yeah, I think the short-term win in 18 months is getting a real handle on assessing. We need to measure everything and we need to get that organized. If you looked at the sustainability journey as kind of a maturity matrix, at the very bottom is getting organized. Where's my data? And it's
Mhm.
enterprise data that we need. So getting organized, getting procedures and process in place, that's the win over the next 18 months. Those procedures are going to require working with people using hearts and minds, both. What's the business advantage? Why should we be doing this as an organization? Why should I care? So making sure to answer those questions along the way. Then beyond 18-month horizon, the longer term strategy is to start getting serious about where's our carbon coming from. Now, most companies, 90 to 95% is going to be scope 3. So that's by subcontractors that are producing those emissions. So I need to go upstream, start working with suppliers, start looking at the materials, decarbonize the materials we choose, really get sticky about our waste. We don't want to produce or purchase anything extra that we don't have to. So that will take us through 2040, where we have a net zero commitment by 2040 for
Wow.
waste and greenhouse gases. So that's very ambitious, be in the built sector. So long term, it's going to be this long journey of working with subcontractors, and it's complex. If you think about a company that has 800 job sites at any given time, with 800 sets of different subcontractors, it's not like you can go create, a few different strategic relationships. It gets very complex, and so long term, it's just going through that complexity journey and working with our supply chain upstream, working with our clients downstream to find unique financial models that are going to help them use these more sustainable products, track things, and keep tracking it after we leave. It's a habit we want to kickstart and then pass on to our clients and customers.
That's a huge ambition in agenda. And so typically the next question would be, what keeps you up at night? But I want to turn it around and say, what motivates you to get up in the morning? Because you have an awesome, pretty awesome opportunity.
Yeah, it is an awesome opportunity. What motivates me to get up in the morning, and the reason that I went back into big corporate after leaving it with complete burnout at the end of 2016, working with sustainability, I came back because this is an opportunity to do something really special with a very special company. And what I mean by that is they're privately held. They are very interested in building regeneratively. So we say building more than buildings, and they actually mean it. So making each place better. It's like in sustainability, the common thing to say is like, do no harm and safety, what is that? Like, don't kill anybody, right?
Right.
That's, we need to think bigger than that especially as a country. We need to think beyond just, let's just do no harm and then we can wash our hands of this. We need to take responsibility. We need to build regeneratively. And I'm very excited about if we can figure out the financial models, if we can do this as an American, then we share it. Sustainability is one of those aspects of business. It's more of the blue ocean strategy instead of the red ocean strategy. And what I mean by that is like the more you give it away, the more you share with each other your ideas, the more everybody wins versus, this is competitive, tight-lipped information that we need to hide from everyone else. Sustainability is not like that. So I love that attribute of it. I love working with other companies in our sector and sharing ideas. And I think we're all, as a society, as an industry, this is a huge opportunity for a pivot point. The construction sector is almost 40% of global emissions. We're a third of global waste. Like, where else would I want to be if I want to help Mother Nature get back in balance with, these parasitic humans?
Yeah. I'm right there with you with, aren't we lucky to have a seat on the front edge with clay in our hands and a white space in front of us? It's very fortunate, and we can make that difference. The world is
play.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Sustainability Square One. If today's insights sparked ideas, share the episode and subscribe for more conversations with sustainability leaders committed to transparency and impact.